Hello, my name is Nicholas Morton. In this talk, we're going to be thinking about the main paragraphs in an essay. What's the best way to approach them? How do you structure them? What are they for? Those kinds of questions. And I'm going to be giving my views on this. So let's say you've introduced your essay. You've laid out your introduction. The reader knows where you're going. And then you launch into, let's say you've got between 6 to 8 paragraphs that you want to include for the main body of your essay. How do you tackle one of those paragraphs? Okay, let's take the question. Let's say we're trying to explain the rise of Adolf Hitler. How did that come about? And in this particular paragraph, we want to show the influence of the First World War, or the memory of it, in Germany in the 1920s, 1930s, and show how that played its part in being connected to the rise of Adolf Hitler. What we could do is we could start off our essay, or start off our paragraph, by saying, the rise of Adolf Hitler was clearly linked to the memory of the First World War. Job done. Tick box. Okay, let's try another one. We could start the paragraph saying, the memory of the First World War was crucial to the rise of Adolf Hitler. This is shown in the quotation from A History of the First World War, where it says, the rise of Adolf Hitler can only be explained with reference to the memory of the First World War. Therefore, the memory of the First World War was crucial to the rise of Adolf Hitler. Now, I've deliberately started this talk by giving you 2 bad examples. The first example is pure assertion. You're simply stating what you think. That's not particularly helpful, because simply stating what you think is not an essay, it's not an argument. Because the crucial element to this, the crucial element to the main, to a main paragraph, is you supply a reason why. Why do you think that? What is the rationale, the evidence underpinning what you're saying? The second bad example I gave you was solely dependent on a quote which simply showed that a historian has the same opinion as you, which is fine, but you still haven't explained why. You still haven't justified your point. So a good main paragraph will typically do 3 things. First of all, the paragraph will start by setting out what it is that this paragraph is going to be dealing with. A mission statement, if you like. And so in a sense, starting off a paragraph saying memory of the First World War was important to the rise of Adolf Hitler isn't a bad opening, because the reader knows exactly where you're headed. You can also, in the first line, if it's often a good idea, to show how this paragraph links to the previous one, and so you could do something in the way that you introduce it to show that linkage. That would also be a good plan. Once you set out your shop in that way, what you then do typically is to supply your evidence. What are your reasons for believing the First World War's memory was so important for the rise of Adolf Hitler? And this is where you can bring in primary sources, statistics. You could discuss the context or the catalogue of events around that time, whatever it is that proves your argument. The next phase, which can overlap with the previous one, is where you then discuss this. You may show how your views either draw upon or even conflict with those of other historians. If you agree with other historians, or if you're drawing upon their ideas, obviously that should be referenced and you can highlight that, but it's good to show that you do have that, you have been drawing on them in that way. If you disagree with a historian, again, it's good to say what that historian says, why they say it, and then crucially, why you think their arguments need to be changed in some way, or why you think they may be even fundamentally wrong. But it's good to have that debate. So you're not just saying, this is what I think, this is why, but also you're joining the bigger conversation on the subject with other historians. The final part to writing a main paragraph is then to tie it all together, perhaps with the last sentence, just to remind your reader of the point you've made, and then perhaps to set up the next paragraph to show that linkage through to the next part of your essay. Hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much.